When I arrived to the United States, I thought that the only difficulty I was going to face was the language barrier. However, I finished my senior year in high school realizing that living here wasn't as perfect as they portrayed in the media. What surprised me the most was that by the end of my first year here, I found out that my host mother picked my high school for its diversity. The one that was in our district was mostly Caucasian, and exchange students felt unwelcome and discriminated. Then is that I realized I wasn't different because of my nationality, but because of my race. Moving on to community college, I joined various culture clubs. I found myself feeling comfortable and extremely welcomed by those groups. Once I arrived to Gonzaga University, the division between Caucasians and multicultural students shocked me. People of color were part of various clubs that were not even of their race. However, Caucasians rarely attend these clubs. After experiencing this for 2 years, is that I decided to look for answers to this separation. I realized that it didn't just happen at GU, but at the high school and community college level too. After watching And We Stayed, a documentary about discrimination at Gonzaga in 2001, and Divided We Fall, which tell us the stories of people targeted after 9/11, I felt the need to give minorities in my school a voice. I wanted the administration and the main student body to get to know who we are and our experiences. This is Together as Community.
My name is Anas.
My name is Arlene.
My name is Michael.
My name is Mishari.
My name is Graciela.
My name is Timothy.
My name is Sheree.
I'm Jordan.
Gianna.
Jasmine.
Jason.
Eddie.
Kelsey.
Kelly.
Jesse.
Heather.
Every single time I go on like a huge study session where I know it's going to take me at least 3 hours, I start off by playing Muse Supremacy just as loud as I can, and I get some orange soda and goldfish, and I just will eat that and just sit there and get ready.
When I was 5, I was almost kidnapped, but thankfully my dad stopped the guy that was trying to take me away. My favorite color is purple, and I really love unicorns, so I have a pillow pet that I've been carrying around for about 2 or 3 years now, and she sleeps with me every night, and her name is Eunice.
For 19 years, I did not have my ears pierced, and even before that, I got my nose pierced first, so I kind of went out of order.
I love eating chocolate and drinking orange juice at the same time. I think it's the greatest combination in the world.
This summer, 2013, I'll be traveling to Zambia with CLP.
I spent my junior year studying abroad in Beijing, China.
I'm half Argentinian and half Chinese.
I'm an English student at Schaumburg.
I like to nap a lot.
I like to hula dance.
I'm an electrical engineering major.
I eat Cheetos as much as I drink water.
I am from Egypt.
I love the color pink.
I like basketball.
My experience in Gonzaga has been largely positive. I haven't had any particularly negative things said to me in a racist fashion.
My experiences in Gonzaga have mostly been positive. I've made lots of friends that I would consider my family, because I've come really close, especially during freshman year.
Coming here to Gonzaga, I was really welcome with open arms to the La Raza Latina group, which was a very unique group for me because I had been surrounded by my Mexican culture at home and with family, but here it was something that I was choosing to do.
I've had a really good experience here at GU. I've made my own little family here with the club I'm involved with, which is La Raza Latina, and I feel like that's a really great club to keep students here. It fosters community and family and just friendship, and you're just everyone's there for each other.
I have found that I've really had to explore my culture, and at Gonzaga what it really has shown me is that I really have to start embracing my ethnicity, because although I have no experience with the culture, it really is still a part of me.
Ethnocentrism is something that we all have in some part, because we are taught that the way our culture does things are the best, or else we don't pass that on. It's something we want to pass on. So it already at that level of very young, we're learning that the way we do things, are the way that not only the world should do them, but it's the best way to do them.
I've had a few instances here in town where I've been mistaken for a Hispanic person who would walk up to me and speak to me in Spanish, and I'd just go like that and not be sure how to respond.
When I came to Gonzaga, people would always assume, you know, where are you from? What's your ethnicity? And I'd be like, well, I'm Scottish and I'm Chinese. And they'd be like, wait, so you're Chinese? And I'd be like, and Scottish.
I was just, you know, walking around, seeing what everyone was doing. And I met this girl and we started talking. And I was like, oh, she's really nice, she's really cool, you know? Maybe I'll, you know, make a friend out of her. And then out of nowhere, she's just like, hey, so what part of Mexico are you from? And I was like, whoa, I'm not Mexican. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I just assumed.
Is it really different from Saudi Arabia, like to come here in the United States and the city? And it's like, we were living in the desert 80 years ago, so it's not right now. So like we live in a city, we have cars and we have everything. We don't ride camels anymore.
Stereotyping is where we just generalize a whole group of people to have a certain characteristics without allowing for individual differences. Also, we know the best way to break a stereotype is to get to know people. Because as we know, once we know people, they don't usually fit the stereotype. Then it's something like, well, they're all that way except you, because I know you. Well, then accept this person, accept that person. But the stereotyping a lot of times is very prevalent because we don't realize how harmful it is. It comes through in our language. If we say, I went to the store and I feel like they really gypped me, without realizing that that term came from our idea about gypsies, and that, you know, gypsies are thieves and we're getting gypped. And so we probably very unconsciously use stereotypes all the time. Our brain loves to categorize people.
It's just more either an ignorance or just this, say what I say, I'm going to be diverse, I'm going to strive for diversity, but there's not actually action taken. And really I think it just stems from ignorance, as you know, just kind of pointed out in the campus climate survey that was released earlier this year. There was a comment about cultural clubs and how they're said to be exclusive, which every single other culture club on this campus will tell you that that's not the case, that they want to actually accept all these members.
I'm in Chinese club and this is not Chinese at all, so I don't really understand why people think that. You don't have to be of a certain race to partake in that culture's like activities and stuff. You don't have to be like that. That's not how it is.
I feel like there's a lot of really great resources like on campus, like through UMEC and all the cultural clubs and stuff, but like it's a very small percentage of people that engage and a small percentage of people that choose to be involved.
I'm a board member this next year for FOSU, and I'm not even Filipino. And like I just felt very welcomed in FOSU. Like everyone was so friendly, and like even though I'm not of their culture, they like welcomed me into their club. Like we have some like white members, we have people of different cultures, not just the Filipinos, like in all, and that goes for like all the culture clubs on campus.
I've had other white students on campus, you know, come and sit down and want to have a heart-to-heart with me as to why or how I got involved in the cultural clubs, and I'm sure that they're just curious, and because honestly, I am one of the few who are involved in the cultural clubs on campus who is not from that culture. But it's just interesting because I don't really know how to respond, and for me, it's not something that I think about. It's not something that I'm like, you know, oh, well, I want to be different, so I'm going to join this club. No, it's never been like that. It's just been, I like these people, and this is a club that they're a part of, so I want to hang out with them. They're my friends.
Prejudice then is how I feel about a certain group of people, usually a negative feeling. And so if I feel like, if I stereotype women to be bad drivers, then I'm going to say something at the prejudice level. I don't like women drivers. And then you get into then how you feel about a group of people.
Talking about like Hinduism, one of the things that Hindus do is that they eat with their hands, and so a lot of times people will say things, oh, how come you're eating with your hand? Like, that's kind of gross. Don't you wash your hands? And I say, yeah, actually I always carry around hand sanitizer, and I think that eating with your hands is an art form, and I actually don't use regular utensils because I'm just so used to not using any type of utensils at all.
Like in my class, there was only about, out of like 30 students, only like 3 of us were non-white, and all the white students weren't very like welcoming to us. They just like insulted us. Like, they said there's no point in coming to any of our festivals because if they are not of that culture, because they won't feel welcomed and they won't understand. But like, as cultural students, we're all very welcoming and don't agree with that.
A lot of people, when I introduce myself, sometimes I don't say my last name, so they kind of automatically assume that I'm not Hispanic or Latino or anything like that. In fact, one of my good friends, he thought I was Asian for a good semester until he actually went up to me and asked me, are you Asian or Latino? I can't tell. And I responded in Spanish, and he kept looking at me. I'm like, I'm Latino, I'm Mexican. My parents are from Mexico, and all of that. And one of them actually asked me if I'm a citizen. Yes, I am a citizen. I was born here.
Discrimination. And that level is where, by this time, we've already stereotyped, we already have a negative view, and now we don't want you to be, for instance, women shouldn't be driving. Or, you can put whatever category you went in with that. But by the time it gets to discrimination, we are now keeping a group of people from doing something, or from participating, from doing something that I'm doing. And so often whenever we get to the discrimination level, that's where we try to stop it. So we'll say, well, we shouldn't discriminate, which of course is true. But if we try to eradicate it at the discrimination level, it's almost like it's too late, because it started way up higher. And so we need to then be more aware, more conscious at an earlier level of what's leading down to that discrimination, and start looking at it at the stereotyping level and at the paying attention to our language and the type of labeling and so on that we're giving groups of people.
A female was talking about writing an essay on language and started talking about the different languages that she would want to take. And then she said, I wish Gonzaga had Ebonics, like I want to learn like yo, N-word, like, oh, that's so ghetto, that's so ratchet. I want to learn how to speak like that. And she was like, oh, where's someplace I can learn Ebonics? And she was referring to the quote unquote ghetto language of the black culture, I guess, of, gang culture or whatever she was assuming. And then the guy sitting next to me was like, the only place you're gonna learn that is prison, because that's where it comes from. Because that's I mean, like, how else are these prison mates gonna communicate with each other? That's where Ebonics comes from. And once he said that, like, I already had a fire boiled in me that was started from the previous comment. Once he said that, it made me so angry. Even though I can't identify with a Mexican culture or the culture that they were assuming was tied up to Ebonics and so quote unquote black culture, I was so offended because I know these people and I know what it's like to have these stereotypes against you and have it said like it's nothing and to offend people.
I experienced it especially like just going into a classroom. Like every time I would just go and sit down, I would always be like, I would purposely sit in the middle, but there would never be anyone who would sit around me. Like those chairs, I'm not even kidding you, would be the last ones taken out of the entire classroom. And it felt like, honestly, people were scared of me. Like I could be walking somewhere, I would like smile at somebody, they wouldn't even smile back. They would just, whatever.
I was running late to come take the 2015 picture for school. And so everyone that I knew was like already there. I didn't know where they were. I just came and went outside and was just trying to go ahead and take the picture really quick. It was hot, was sweaty, and it's a whole bunch of people crowded around each other. And I stand in line. I remember this specifically. I was in the number 1. And I'm just standing up, looking up at the top of Herrick, just really hoping that it will hurry up and happen. When all of a sudden, I felt someone's hand go into my hair, like a full, grab. Someone literally put their hand all the way in my hair. It was out in this big afro, and someone literally reached from the back of me and touched my hair. And I just remember being so shocked.
I was a resident assistant in Catherine Monica Hall, and I was racially targeted. There were racial slurs written on my whiteboard. And that was the first time I had really felt targeted. I've experienced ignorance like everybody has, and that was the first time I really felt threatened. But the amazing part about it wasn't just that I was outraged and my other friends of color were outraged. It was that the entire community that had built up around me was outraged. I had President McCullough come to my work and pull me aside and ask me what he could do and that it was being dealt with. My boss and my staff at the time really supported me through that whole process. So I think that, just like there is racism and prejudice and negative things that happen on this campus, as there are everywhere in the world, I think what was really cool was the support that was provided to me.
There are very few people in positions of power at the university that are not white. I don't actually think I can think of any. There are a couple faculty members, but very few professors or people on staff that are diverse, and I think that's what differentiates Gonzaga quite a bit from other universities, because I think other universities have a commitment to diversity and they seek out faculty that represent the students, because Gonzaga's student body is actually quite diverse now.
With that particular teacher and with other teachers, they just didn't seem to understand my lack of formal training, because I just did not have the resources when I was growing up. And as a result, that's kind of a disconnect with my teachers, which kind of sucks because I've spent so much time with them.
The professor seemed cool and everything seemed great, and we're working our way through history, and it got to the point where we were talking, we were inching up and edging up, and I can see through the chapters that we were getting towards slavery and the slave trade and everything about that, and I was just really intrigued and I was ready for us to talk about this subject. And the entire chapter was about slavery. The whole chapter was supposed to talk about this, and we had went through every single chapter in the book so far. And so we get to that day in class where I'm thinking we're going to talk about it, and my professor gets up in front of the class and says, we're not gonna, this chapter isn't important and we don't need to know it. I'm gonna spend 15 minutes talking to you about the map that's on this page, which was the very first page of the chapter, and after that we're moving on to the next chapter. And I remember just thinking to myself, wow, it's great to see that a professor thinks that talking about slavery and the slave trade wasn't important.
Because I'm going to be festival chair next year, I know there is a lot of difficulties booking rooms and stuff for the culture clubs. We have ours in Cataldo, while HPIC has theirs in the Martin Center, which isn't always fair.
ISU, we have an annual dinner, which is every year in November, and we have to book this date on the calendar an entire 5 or 6 months in advance. I think we booked it in April of the the previous year, not the previous year, but we booked in April, and the dinner was in November. So we told GSBA this, because GSBA is the organization that we have to go through to like have our event made possible and everything, and do all of our advertising and all that, and they have to basically okay everything. So we told them in April that we were going to have our dinner on November 10th, and November 10th comes around, I think like 2 weeks before it, we realized that they actually have like a school-wide event plan for that. They had a triple play thing planned, and they had that planned. And we confronted them, and we said, hey, I don't know if you guys had this on your calendar or not, but we had our dinner set for this date in like April. We told you guys, like we okayed this through you guys. And the response that we got was essentially, oh, well, we don't think that our event would conflict with yours at all.
The only difference that I stay here for almost a semester, and I didn't know only just 30 people, because we were almost out of the campus, because our international student program is in Schaumburg, which is really far. And even the freshman student tour doesn't go there, so I feel really bad about it, because nobody knows that we are here. And I don't think that as an international student or as an ASL student, we don't get that attention from Gonzaga, because the only people that we see are people like we have conversation circles. So conversation circles, the most people who comes, that their class is saying that it's mandatory for you to go there, and there is like almost 3 or 4 students who want it, like they volunteered to go and talk to international student.
I think the cultural clubs here are just really constructive. I think we have a lot of good things to offer, and I mean, it's been a goal of FOSSU's at least to reach out to more people and try to get more people to be involved and engage in our activities, come to our events, and I know a lot of other cultural clubs struggle with that too.
There's this divide, it seems like, between all the colored people and all the race people will hang out with their own little groups, and all the white tend to keep to themselves, but there's not really this connect between the thing, even from the different cultural events on campus. It's not, you really don't see a lot of either the Caucasian, the dominant ethnicity, I guess, even though they're the majority, on campus going to all the more the colored people's events. It just doesn't seem to be that interest on either side.
I hope that the students who are in Gonzaga, like to be more, they have mutual respect, let's say, or I don't know what's the right word to say that, but hopefully that they understand and see, like, respect us as our culture and religion and our habits, what we do.
Gonzaga going forward, if nothing more, with its more diverse student body, we'll have more people that maybe do want to come back and teach at Gonzaga and be at the forefront of that movement and really pioneer a better, more colorful future for Gonzaga.
I see how much these cultural clubs have to offer Gonzaga, and then I see that I'm one of the few white students on campus that actually takes time to get to know them and to go to their meetings and learn about their culture and everything that they have experienced in their life that's different than mine or maybe similar, and just finding those connections and making new friends. It's just been one of the greatest experiences that I've had thus far in college, and it just saddens me that I've become this, token white girl or, special exception to the rule of Gonzaga. And I don't know, I think that's a serious issue that the campus has to deal with.
I want to challenge other students to take a stand and find out how minorities at their school feel. I would like to end discrimination, racism, and prejudice from campuses. Let's go from ignorance to knowledge and from division to unity and understanding. Make a video, write a letter or a song, post it on Facebook. Tweet it at